Welcome back to the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge application walkthrough. In this video, we're going to go through part 6, the science fair paperwork wizard. So in general, all projects, according to our official rules, should be following the Regeneron ISF safety rules. And this is to make sure that you and any of your subjects are safe and that you're following ethical guidelines. So your fairs help us with this process by sometimes requiring paperwork depending on the type of research that you conducted. So in this section, you're going to be asked about what that paperwork was that you completed, if you completed any at your local science fair, and generally what safety measures you followed while conducting your research. The first question asks about your research location. So here you should see the response that you gave back in part 3 of the application. If there was anywhere else that you conducted your research, you can select yes here. And then I'm going to show so you can, I'm going to clear this response so you can see it pop up. If you select yes, you'll see another conditional question pop up, and this should look exactly like it did in part 3. And you'll be able to select anything else here to elaborate on where you conducted your research. Next, we ask that you provide a brief summary of the approval and permission process at your school or science fair, including answers to the following questions. For example, your teacher might have had to vet your project plan before you started your research, or your fair might have reviewed your safety plan once you entered your local science fair. So answer this question just in as much detail as possible so that our viewers can understand the type of permission you had before you started conducting your research. This next question just asks about general risk that was involved in your project and what specific safety precautions you took while conducting your research. So this might apply to some projects more than others, but it is still a required question, so make sure you complete it. And again, give us as much detail as you can here. If you did a project that was, for example, purely math, we know that you might not have that much to say, and that's okay. But if you did something where you needed a parent or teacher to supervise, you should describe what that activity was, who supervised your project, and generally how you're being safe while conducting your research. Next, we're going to ask for the start and end dates of your research project, and if your project was a continuation from a previous year. You can do a continuation project, but you will need to then upload a form. Your fair might have already asked you for a continuation form. It might be the same as the Regeneron ISF form or a different one. But basically, we want you to complete this form so that we can see how your continuation project is different from your previous year's research that you have conducted. This next question asks what you might have used in your research project. For example, did you use human participants, and did those participants fill out the survey? Or did you use human participants, but they tested a device that you built? So you can select any and all that apply here. If you worked with none of the above, you can also select that, but make sure you unselect any of the other options here, just so that it's clear that you did not work with any of these items listed. Finally, we want to know if you submitted any paperwork at your fair. So you might have had to submit Regeneron ISF forms, or your fair might have their own type of paperwork and forms to complete. And as a hint, if you selected anything other than none of the above here, it's very likely that your fair would have required some sort of additional paperwork. So we want to see that here. You can either select yes, and then you'll be asked to upload your paperwork as a PDF. So remember that you can use a PDF converter to get your files in the right format. You can select yes, but I submitted the forms to my local fair and no longer have a copy. We know that sometimes you're filling out the application weeks or maybe even months after you competed at your local fair. You might have had to submit that paperwork to your fair and you don't have a copy. As much as possible, we recommend that you reach back out to your fair to get a copy of that original paperwork so you can upload it here. If you really can't get those original copies, you'll be allowed to upload a letter signed by the adult that approved your project. So it might be the scientific review committee at your fair, the SRC, or the IRB team member that looked over your human participant study, a teacher, a fair director. It should just be coming from an adult that includes what you worked with, what approvals you obtained, and or what safety measures you took while conducting your research. So again, if you don't have your original science fair paperwork, you can upload this letter here instead. And definitely email us if you have any questions about the paperwork and what you should be providing. You'll see that we have some generic forms that are listed here that you might have had to complete, that anyone at your fair might have had to complete in order to participate. So it's not necessarily specific to the kind of research that you were doing, but we want to see anything and everything here. So even if you just have generic forms like Form 1 or Form 1B, you can upload those here. If you have specific ones, for example, if you work with microorganisms or human animal tissue, you should upload all of that paperwork here. And if you don't have any paperwork that you submitted, you can select no, and you won't be asked to upload anything. One note here is that some fairs might require a research plan or an abstract. We don't need to see those uploads here, so you don't need to include them. And this section is also not a section where you should be uploading anything additional for your project. So no additional information that you want the judges to have for your project should go here. If you have any questions, again, definitely email us at jic@societyforscience.org and we'll help you out. We know this section can be a little bit confusing, so we definitely want to make sure we help you out along the way. And once you're finished the section, you can go ahead and mark it as complete, and you are done.